Hi guys, I'm Lionxv from Hate Me Gaming. You found my very first video, so I do apologise in advance for what may lay ahead. Not entirely sure myself. Well, what I'm hoping to achieve with this video is just tell you a little bit more about me, what I enjoy doing, what I like playing. So I'll just go back from my history really and go with what I started with. My first console was a Commodore 64. Now, apart from the long loading times, when the games actually did load and not crash, they were pretty interesting for the time. You couldn't really get much gaming anywhere apart from arcades, so I was quite thankful for what I could get. Even though if I do see another loading screen flashing, I may just regress into a fetal position and cry. The second console was the Mega Drive, or a Genesis for all you Americans out there. The first game I want to look at is Golden Axe. It's probably the most well-known one, but it's an excellent two-player game. You know, there's a lot to different variety of combat for its time, probably not now, even though mainly just headbutt people. That gets you through about 90% of the game. You got some mounts, but you usually get beaten by them by the time you get a chance to get them. And there's the potions, which everybody loves. The only downfall to the potion is you do unfortunately have to beat elves to death for them. I'm not sure about moral implications of this, but oh well, it's only a game. Just keep bashing them until you're full, really. And when you're full, just bash them some more. Why not? A bit of violence never hurt anyone. Now this next one is the Dark Souls of its time, Bart Simpson versus the Space Mutants. This was the bane of my childhood. If you got a good run, you may just play 5 minutes without losing a life. Most of the time though, you ended up playing the first bit every time, because it was a Mega Drive, you could not save. What would be the fun in that? It did have its little quirks. You could phone more at the tavern there. Can't remember how to do it. I am quite drunk at the moment, sorry about that. Hidden obstacles and things like that, birds and your X-ray goggles to spot the space mutants and stomp on their faces. And most of the time it was just deaths and hearing the same line
Eat my shorts, man.
over and over again.
Eat my shorts, man.
Until finally, although space mutants were invading, I'm not sure entirely why they do this, they put Bart in jail. Now, I'm sure this is illegal. He's only a kid. He shouldn't be subjected to the horrors that is a jail shower. Now, this next one is one that I really hold dear to my heart, Toe Jam and Earl. About two aliens crash landed on Earth and need to find pieces of a spaceship to put back together and get back home. Classic story, better than E.T. any day. And one of the best things I loved about this was it was multiplayer, split screen. I just wasted so many hours on this as a kid. Beginning screen looks like Great Britain, yay! But apart from that, you run round. You also collect presents, which you can see on the screen there. And the elevator is your way up to the next level. So each level you can select as a randomised one, so you can play it as many times as you want. It's always something different and you're always exploring a new place, usually with another player, so it gets quite interesting when you've got to coordinate when you find an elevator to get to it. With the amount of enemies that it throws at you, it can get a bit mad. The elevator itself can be quite bad on the eyes, on the background when it's going up, but you get used to it. It's worth the trouble of having to go in between levels for each level on its own. They can take a while to get through. The only problem again is no save. You see with a map there, it unlocks each block separately. And with the presents, some are good, some are bad. That one there I just opened, it should have been a teleport to second player, but because it was just me, it teleported me on the spot. Fudge Sunday's health, money, which you can buy loads of different stuff with, identify presents, and a thunderstorm, which fries you. You get 4 bonus high tops, which make you run around the level. You can run off the edge of a level, which drops you down 1, so that's something you have to watch out for. Now this one needs no introduction, just need to look at this sequence to see what it is and listen to the music. I fell in love with this as a kid, purely from the movies alone. I loved them, and this was a natural progression, even though it was a difficult progression. High learning curve with it. You've got to know the sequences for the bosses. Without it, you've not got much chance. Now, Egon picked him purely out of tribute to his passing away earlier on this year. So we'll give this a go. You can pick any of the mansions straight off. Not a good idea to pick the one I did. Usually start at the beginning. But why not? We'll go for it. This one is an ice one. There's quite a few different bosses, and what I did like about this is you could pick who you wanted to be. You could choose your starting level. And going backwards, it all respawned. So if you cleared an area and needed to go back through it, they would all respawn. You had lots of different power-ups to get, with different items, health, different types of shot for your gun. Doors were incredibly hard to spot sometimes, so you'd have to do a decent bit of exploring, which again, the coming back and mobs respawning became a problem. The bosses on this really were terrible. You know, if you didn't know the combination or didn't learn the combination quick enough, you didn't stand a chance. The graphics were good for the time as well, so overall good game. Sticking with a supernatural theme, we have Haunting, which is a bit grim storyline wise, and not quite as popular as I thought it was back in the day when I first started playing it. It was one that I loved. It is technically a multiplayer game. I'll go into that a little bit further on into the video. But the main storyline is you are this guy who is a ghost, or a poltergeist. You were killed by this guy. He's a tycoon. Apparently, you know, it's fine for him to kill you, and you go back and haunt him and his family and keep scaring them out of every house that they go into. I think overall there's about 4. You have that green goblin looking guy. You go into the objects that shine. You have an attack there. The green dot means one that you can just set off at any time. That is an aeroplane. It will crash and scare that guy up in the corner. Now the telescope here, you can control and move about the room scaring him. Now I loved this game just because the amount of stuff that you could do with it. There's so much stuff in the room, and I've yet to find a game that has this kind of gameplay with it, to be honest. And Very pissed himself, always a bonus. Yeah, you scare each member of the family out individually, chase them from room to room until their fear level goes to extremely high and they run out of the room. Your green bar at the bottom you use by going in and going into items, and using them. When you scare somebody out of a room, they drop their ecto-cum on the floor. You pick it up and it refills your bar. If you do end up running out of this green bar, this is where the multiplayer aspect comes in. Player 1 goes first, and in here it then brings up both players. You fight over the goo, and the person who has the most goo at the end of the run plays until they run out of goo again. It can be quite interesting, although it is just a variant of a passing the pad technique really, but it adds a bit of a twist to the gameplay, so you keep more competitive and just keeps it a bit more interesting. Now my final choice for the Mega Drive is, because I'm a bit of a comic geek, it is Comix Zone. Now I really enjoyed playing this game just because of the unique layout of it. Enjoy reading it as much as playing it. You'll see why in a second, but it's all about this guy. He's a comic book writer who gets sucked into his comic book by evil forces, and you fight your way through it. So let's have a look. So that's your pet rat on the desk there. You can use him as a weapon, which is always good. And you'll see the layout here is very much split up like a comic book. You have your basic items you can pick up, and the top right, the 3 squares, you'll see them filling up with the items that you can scroll through and use, like the knife. Kapow. And you go through, and different ways of traversing the cells. You can usually jump over, and I like where the enemies go in, they're drawn in to the actual gameplay instead of just randomly spawning and appearing, and also bits of paper fly off them when you do beat them up, which is one of the things that draw me to this game to begin with. Just the attention to detail that you'll see with the backgrounds flashing, they're all animated, and you have different choices as well, so you can go different ways, find secret paths, which makes each playthrough different in its own way. Now I just want to cover one last type of a system that I used to play, well, type of system, was the old arcade machines. Now first one is Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Used to really play this a lot, usually about 2-3 of us at a time, pumping all our pocket money into it, just trying to get a little bit further, seeing all the bosses and things like that, all the different weapons that you could have. There was quite a few firearms to collect as well as grenades, different things like that. Not to mention you got to throw things at dinosaurs, which is always handy, and fat people dropped steak. If only that was true. There we go, grenade. And the bosses were always interesting, there was always something different. One of them I can remember was quite gruesome, of a guy cutting up dinosaurs for leather, which always stuck with me as an image, but it never stopped me playing it. Now the next one I want to talk about is a machine that always had a queue for it, is Alien vs Predator. Now this was good reference to the films at the time. I did enjoy the gameplay. Again, 3 players on some machines, 2 on others, depending on how lucky you are and how good your arcade was around you. It was a bit coin hungry though. Some attacks unblockable, unavoidable, so you ended up just pumping a lot of money in it to get through bosses, although the main swarms would just mash your way through them. You had a gun as such with each of the ones. They did overheat after a certain period of time, but they're quite powerful. And who doesn't like a slow motion boss finishing move? Now I really didn't expect to go on this long, but lastly is a game I enjoyed that's just called Pang. It was one of those that I nursed many a hangover with. It's simple, but there's lots of skills for individual characters that you can select and lots of power-ups. So that's just one that I spent a lot of time on as well. So thanks for joining me, this is my first video. Please leave a comment in the box below and like the video. Leave any suggestions for any other ones that you'd like me to cover. I should be on to more up-to-date games on my next video, but I am open to possibly doing an N64 PlayStation era one as well, depending on the feedback that I get from this one. So thanks again for joining me, and subscribe if you haven't done already. That went quite well. I don't think the counter worked though. Didn't make a noise. There's no way I did it 74 times. Oh, for fuck's sake.